Hello and good afternoon. My name is Rita KUSI. I am the host of 30 Minutes with HR, which is a partnership program between KUSI Consulting and the Association of African Universities. And today we actually bring you another exciting episode. Last week we discussed employee and employer relations, and this week's episode is actually a continuation of that. Today we're talking about performance management systems and workforce analytics. And I have with us this special and fabulous Anita Wiafe-Asinor. I'm going to actually have Anita introduce herself to you all.
Okay, so I'm Anita Wiafe-Asinor, the Managing Director of OML Africa. OML Africa is a strategic HR consultancy which is championing strategic HR, compliance, and good labor practice in Africa, working with industries and companies across sectors.
Thank you, Anita, and welcome.
Thank you, Rita.
Thank you,
to be
guest.
here.
Thank you. I'm so glad to have you. Now, so we usually host the show every Wednesday at 1 p.m. On AAU TV.
Yes.
Viewers usually tune in live on the Association of African Universities Facebook page to
All
watch.
right. Hello,
All right.
viewers.
So say hello to our viewers.
Hello, viewers.
And viewers, be sure to let us know where you're watching from. I always like to know the diversity of our viewers and where they're watching from. So now, when we talk about HR, you know, I have so much respect for what you do in terms of HR because we're talking numbers, the analytics of HR.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your job and what you do and just how relevant it is to business owners?
Okay, so outside of being the MD, of course, I consult, and that's what the consultants do. We work with various companies across sectors. And when we say strategic HR, it just means that we more look at how HR is in partnership with the organization when it comes to the deliverables of the HR. So instead of HR being, sometimes you hear it used as a passenger in the car, we like to be at the front seat next to the person, the person driving the car, which would be the management, let's say.
Okay.
So we look at how to maximize the human capital using good strategies that enhances their performance, engagement, and the whole activities that HR will do to try to attract, to retain, to develop. But we come from the business perspective, so we look at the bottom line. How do these initiatives impact the organization's bottom line, which is basically the revenue line? Because businesses are in business to make money.
Exactly.
And they know that they need the people in order for that to happen. So it's important that the human resource function supports the business to be able to do this effectively. So that's what we kind of look at. So things like analytics is very core to what we do. HR audits, due diligence, not just for the sake of, but actually analyzing the vast majority of data that HR has and being able to provide that information to the company to be able to make decisions about the human capital. So for example, instead of just deciding that I need to hire someone, so I'm going to put an advert in a newspaper, on all the job boards, and so on and so forth, we will look at how you're recruiting, where your candidates have come from, and identify that actually from all the people you've recruited, this percentage, the talents that you are working for you that are performing have come from this particular job board. So it makes more sense for you to focus on a specific
area,
job board rather than all job boards, and that's what we're going to do, and that's going to reduce the cost. You know, we realize that, oh, this newspaper you've been advertising, actually you don't have any solid candidates coming, or this agency that you're using. So you become more strategic, even in the methods that you're using to recruit. So these are the kind of things we're working with companies for. And the whole, I mean, all things HR we do, but mainly from the strategic angle.
I think it's interesting, and it's actually also very fascinating because I've been in HR for quite some time, and no one actually talks about the analytics. You know, we were talking before the show even started. We were talking about you mentioned that I think a percentage of individuals who actually view your content
Yes.
with regards to analytics are the executives.
It's a sickness.
Yeah.
All the time I'm calculating numbers and I want to know what's happening.
Yeah, of course.
Because you can reason with facts and figures. I'm not saying that qualitative doesn't come in, because it does, because you're dealing with human beings. But a lot of the time when we're talking about the business is the facts and figures that you can take decisions on.
Exactly.
And what you find happening to senior management, a lot of senior management don't actually even know HR can do these things. And some of them know, but because they're not doing it, they don't really have an expectation. And it's nothing new, because the sales, the marketing, the finance are all doing analytics.
Okay.
You know, from their perspective of their functions. So it's something HR should be doing. But because the way HR started from the old personnel model, where we're meant to be back office, doing all the administration, hiring and firing, you hear that a lot. Exactly. We've become more administrative, but in recent times we've been told to evolve and become more strategic. And that is improved a lot. I mean, there's a lot of HR practitioners fantastically partnering their organizations and doing amazing things. But, you know, if we bring it to our continent, to Africa, we are now kind of building up to this. And there's a lot of work we need to do. But at least, even for me, being on the continent in the last 8 years, I've seen a change in how HR is moving, should we say, from that whole personal angle into the strategic business partner model.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think what also makes your role very important is that once we gather the data, it's usually specific to your demographic, right?
Exactly.
So if I live in Ghana, I should be able to work with specific data that just pertains to Ghana, our region.
Exactly.
And if you're in Ivory Coast, if you're in, you know, so on and so forth.
I mean, when I first came into Ghana and I was assessing which area to focus on in the HR, always was strategic, but it was like, what are the needs? One of the things I very quickly noticed was that we didn't have data. And then, of course, you connect with your...
I remember we discussed that. That's how I think you and I met.
Yes.
Actually.
And then you connect with your Nigerian, Kenyan, etc. Associates, and you realize the problem is kind of there. So one of the things that I champion is creating local content for Africa.
Nice.
Not just in Ghana, but Nigeria, you know, doing our own research, trying to understand our human capital in terms of performance, in terms of talent management, our millennials. I think it's important. It's not that we're going to ignore the international front, because that's very important in terms of standards and insights. But what we're saying is, being in developing nation or continent, we have peculiar problems that's peculiar to our human resource, that we need to address it in that way that you may not necessarily see if you go to the UK, the US, or you know, any of the developed nations. So I think it's really important that we build that content. And that's what led me to found the African Associate of HR Leaders, which is trying to build dialogue for HR practitioners on the continent for us to share best practice. So when we're talking about performance management, how is it being done in Nigeria? How is it being done in Kenya? What are some of the analytics they're finding? Is it similar to Ghana? Is it similar to Nigeria? We kind of need to start having this conversation because our human resource issues are quite similar.
It's similar,
on the continent.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's very true. I really, really think it's important, the work that you're doing. And it's
Thank you.
also, it helps, you know, you hear all the time employers are saying that talent is hard to come by. You know, retaining talent is also another topic for conversation. And then once you have the talent, how do you measure their performance when they're within your organization? You know, so that's, before we move on, there's actually a scenario that I would like to use for us to have this discussion. When we're talking about managing performance, retaining performance, because that talent is what you're probably going to use when it comes to your succession planning.
Right.
How do you plan your succession using those who are already within the organization, right? So I'm sure you have heard, because this isn't an incident that just happened. It started some time ago with the banks, right? So the consolidation of the banks.
Yes.
So there are 5 banks recently in Ghana that are being consolidated here in our Ghana. I guess because of bad practices and whatnot. And on August 1st, there was a letter that was sent out from the CEO and also the managing director of one of the banks, right? So is the Consolidation Bank of Ghana? Is that what we are calling the bank?
Yes, the consolidation, yeah, because it's brought all the banks
Exactly.
together.
So the Consolidation Bank of Ghana. All right. So according to the CEO and MD, this is actually a statement from the letter. The purpose of this letter, which was sent to the employees who are victims of the consolidation, the purpose of this letter is to inform you that you will be working with the new bank for a period of 60 days for certain, during which time it will be possible for your employment status to be assessed. The letter read in part, if continued based on this assessment, a determination will be made as to whether you will continue to be employed with the Consolidated Bank Ghana Limited. Now, this is a piece from a letter that was sent out to, again, the employees who are victims of this bank consolidation. Now, I'm sure this letter was to reassure these employees that, to make them feel as though they would still be employed, right, after the 60 days. In our line of work, we have to care about people. I think it's the human capital aspect that means a lot when you're in HR. When this incident happened, obviously there are people who care about the drama. There are people who care about what happens with the staff. You know, there are people who care about the CEO. Everybody has something that matters to them in this scenario. I think for us, and also because it's been happening a lot, where banks are consolidating, people are being sacked left and right. What should be, like, for the individual who receives this letter from the CEO, what should be your concern? Who is even supposed to be responsible for the employee welfare in situations like this?
Okay, well, okay, so we need to kind of break this down so that it's you know, for people to understand. It all stands from what we mean by performance management system. So we know performance management system is a continuous process where the employee involves the employee at the individual or as a member of a group or team in achieving the organization's vision or mission, which is then translated into goals and objectives, of which the employee is monitored to make sure that they're consistently meeting it effectively and efficiently. So if we have this framework, it means that if you send me a letter saying that you're going to assess me, I need to understand how that assessment
Where you're being assessed
would be.
on.
So in this type of letter, what you would have expected to see would be some indication as to how the assessment will go, or something to say, we will let you know at a later date how people will be assessed, because that's the first thing that comes into mind when you hear
how am I being
performance
assessed?
going to
How
be
do I know? Exactly.
And also we know that 5 banks have come together, so you know, what will be the method? So if I bring it to us, you know, when we do things around mergers, acquisition and this type of thing, what you want to do is you want to focus on the factual information, because factual information I can defend. So what is factual information? So performance ratings, we would look at all of the employees' performance ratings over a period of time, which will be determined. Do we want to look at 3 years, 5 years, whatever.
And so on and so forth.
So once we've decided, and we're going to decide which ratings are we going to look at. I have to be real, because this is a business matter, which means that we know that because of the nature of what's happened, we cannot keep the majority of the staff. So it means we know that when we do performance appraisals, the thing we're looking for is this normal curve, bell curve, you know, where majority of the employees fit in that big middle section, which is the satisfactory employee, have satisfactory performed. So in this instance, we know that the situation has happened, the banks cannot keep the vast majority of employees. So when we look at the performance results of all these individuals involved in who are getting this letter, we may decide that we may highlight to the management, this is the percentage of people under satisfactory, outstanding, exceptional, not performing, needs improvement. And the strategy may be that because we can't retain everyone, we may decide that, I'm just giving an example, we're going to look at those who are outstanding and exceptional are going to be the criteria. So already, if you don't fall under that category,
you know you're already
so we would then
discharged.
assign ratings. So if you are exceptional, which is number 5 usually, we'll give you 10 points. If you are outstanding, maybe we'll give you 5 points. And then we cascade the numbers down. So what is that? That's an objective and factual this thing that we can check against each person. So then we will look at each employee and begin to rate them.
Okay.
So performance ratings becomes one criteria. Then we may come down and say, okay, well, we want to look at length of service. And again, we'll give it a rating. We'll come down and look at attendance in terms of absenteeism, sickness, and give it a rating. By the time we finish, you will tabulate how each individual has scored. And maybe we'll decide it's all out of 100, and we'll set a cap saying if you scored below 60%, we're going to discard you. If you anyone above 60%, we will hire. Are you getting me?
Yes.
So that will be the fair criteria to go, because you're keeping it objective, you're keeping it factual, and it's not based on how Rita feels about Anita. If we went to managers and started saying, this employees tell us, if Rita is not very keen on Anita, Rita may just say, oh, get rid of Anita.
Exactly.
So we need to remove human judgment in as far as possible. It's important for feeding, but it's far better to kind of, in this instance, because of the nature of it, to kind of look more at the objective, factual information. In which case, when I receive a letter that I have not been selected, it's easier for me as the new management or the HR to defend the decision, because I can show you that, well, we compared you to Rita. Rita has 10 years experience. You only have 5. Rita was scoring 5 in the last 3 years on her rating. You've only scored 3. Okay. We can explain, and people can understand things in that way.
It's a fair rating system, right? It's
a fair rating system, and you know, and you can explain it. But in this instance, where a person has received this, it's not been indicated. Let's assume maybe they will follow up with a letter or not. But if I'm the person receiving this, that would be the question I would ask. I would want to follow up and ask is, how would this happen? And it's a normal question to ask.
Exactly.
And if we say in performance management is around objectives, and are you going to set us new objectives or goals? Are you going to use that to take the decision as to whether you keep us or not?
Exactly.
Or are you going to look at what I've just said, the historic data, to take a decision? So it will be quite worrying, exactly. I would imagine, for someone receiving this, because they automatically assume I'm just being sacked, and this is just a way of, you know.
And I mean, when these situations happen too, we just kind of brush it under the rug and then we just move on. We never actually discuss what it means for the actual employees of the organization when they're experiencing that kind of change. We don't discuss it. And I think it's really important for them to also, see transparency and know how those decisions
I think
were made.
In actual fact, we've picked up on this, and we actually put writing something on it.
Good.
And from the employee's perspective, we're saying some of what I've just told you, in that it needs to kind of look at a fair system of this assessment and the communication, etc. But on the employee's side, normally, I mean, this has happened, it's been quite instant, everything's just been happening in the last few weeks. So let's assume that it wasn't time to plan. All right, but as the employees, you're thinking, I probably don't have a job. The next thing you're going to think is, am I going to be paid compensation for those who are eligible? And we should remember that the banks have different category of staff working for them.
Exactly.
Some are permanent, some are fixed term, some are temporary. And we know, I want to make the point that, you know, I don't know if it's been said in the environment, but Ghana is a member of the ILO. It joined the ILO in 1957. As early as 1949, the ILO had a convention where it had its member states.
What is ILO?
So it's the International Labour Organization, which governs all labour activities around the world.
Okay.
And in this 1949 convention, it came out of that came a convention for the protection of workers' wages during insolvency. All right, I think the article is Article 11.1 or something. And basically, in summary, it states that where there's a bankruptcy, insolvency, or a judicial liquidation, the employee should be treated as privileged creditors, which basically means you should prioritize them in paying them before you start looking at all the other creditors or all the other debts and issues.
That's how it should be.
Right. And where, if let's say you're not doing that, we should look at the laws of the nation in what it says around this type of situation, which we know we have a Labour Act, it's in there. And you know that Ghana then joined the Convention the ILO 1957, and so it's part of, it's a member state. And so you realize in our Labour Act, Section 67, it has protection of remuneration. So in practice, there is a law governing this. You understand? People cannot just be let go. The right thing has to be done.
There's a process.
So it's a matter of the bank identifying those who are eligible for packages, and there will be some, and those who are not. And of those who are not, whatever work they had done up to the point of where the insolvency took place should be paid that period their money.
Interesting.
All right. So this would be some of the things you would expect the leadership and all the people involved, the stakeholders involved in this whole scenario to be thinking about. There are people involved, Rita, you know, and it's fine to say you judge my performance to determine whether I stay or go, but it's also right for me to expect you to do the right thing by me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so hold on to your thought. I mean, it's just really interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm very fortunate today to have Anita to really shed some light on the consolidation issue that's happening within the banks here in Ghana. Now, we are going to take a break, and we'll be right back with some more great HR discussions.
My name is Dr. Violet Makuku, a quality assurance expert with the Association of African Universities. The Association of African Universities is here with the African Quality Rating Mechanism, internal institutional evaluation tool that can help you improve the quality of higher education, whether it is in teaching and learning, in ICT, in infrastructure, financial management, university management, and all the other aspects whose quality should be monitored in the university. Kindly follow the provided links for you to understand more about the African Quality Rating Mechanism, institutional evaluation process, and also to get hold of the form that you can use to express interest. AAU, the voice of higher education in Africa.
And we're back like magic. Break time goes by so fast, but I'm sure you missed the great content. So we are back to episode 7 of 30 minutes with HR. If you're watching live on the Association of African Universities Facebook page. And today we are discussing performance management systems and workforce analytics. And I'm joined by Anita. And now she was given some really good advice. If you are an employee or if you've been affected by any of the consolidation bank issues going on in Ghana or just anywhere in general, if you have lost your job and you didn't receive the right processes, Anita is shedding some light on how companies can, you know, I guess just terminate employees, but then also provide some concrete and some strategy as to how the decision was made.
Yes.
Yeah. So yes, you wanted to discuss.
Yes, I mean, I think before we broke, you were asking about the affected employee, what else they can do.
Exactly.
I think one of the issues is that the situation has happened as well now.
Exactly.
And some people will know that, okay, probably I'm not going to be selected or be thinking in that way. Hopefully not, but we know definitely people are going to lose their jobs. So I think if you are now in that position as an ex-employee, it's not easy. You know, that's where if we were handling this in a planned and strategic manner, or even as it's happened, if we're thinking about the human side, we need to have a strategy to deal with the people who are affected by this. People have bills, responsibilities, children, all kinds.
What do they do?
What do they do? They've got things to pay for, but it's happened. So what can you do? Well, I mean, for example, if we're involved, what we would be telling employees to be doing would be to create, you know, to be looking at their CVs, to be doing a skills assessment with them, to find out what skills they have, that they can turn into self-employment. You hear of some of the people who were affected in the UT and the Capital Bank earlier on
that
have
happened
started
before.
doing, somebody's doing Uber, somebody's doing, working at events. And it may not be, I know it's difficult, you were a manager or you were working in a very, yes, in a very good role, and now you feel you now have to take something. But I think you need to just kind of look at the fact that you need to move on. You need a livelihood. So some of these actions may even be temporary.
Yeah,
exactly. So I would, if I was the HR, and I had been involved, I would have been trying to create a forum to try and offer some kind of would want to look at CVs and direct people how to rewrite their CVs. Would want to do very, very important is a skills assessment to find out where am I at, what can I apply my skills to, and then also look at your colleagues. Colleagues you worked with. Is it possible for you to come together and work together? So maybe somebody was in the finance, somebody was working in the HR or marketing. Could you bring yourself together and maybe, I don't know, form a marketing company where you would do the finance, they would do the concepts and design, and this person would do the hiring. I mean, I'm just trying to give
let's
begin to
tips.
Yes, let's begin to look at how can we survive. It's about survival now, because there's so many people who have lost their jobs.
Because that came as a shock. And I mean, when you think about it, 5 banks, that's a lot of banks just within this year alone,
exactly.
I think.
And I feel as well, once things settle, as the consolidated bank begins to work through things, and we know, people are working, trying to solve the problem, there will be something to kind of help them, the employees that are affected. But up until then, I think you kind of need to start seeing how things you can do to help yourself. And it's not easy. It's so easily said and done, I know. But what we're saying is, try something. Start looking at the skills.
Don't just
start
sit
looking
around
at opportunity.
and be idle.
Yeah, and
you have to do something.
I know in our environment we always want to do things on our own, but I think people should champion partnerships and coming together with other people, because it probably strengthens your position and your ability to succeed, because you have, so your one talent, if you connect with somebody else, you may have 2, 3, 4, 5 talents to work with, and you can problem solve and come up with ways of doing stuff. People may be good in catering, they may be good in graphic, there are things, people don't just have one talent. So begin to look at what you can do. And then of course, if you're having creditors, you need to have a conversation with them and explain what has happened, and hopefully there will be some understanding, because we are all here, we kind of all can see what's happening, whilst you try and find a way out. But it's just a very difficult and unfortunate situation that some of these people would have found themselves in.
I agree with you.
They'll be able to find a way forward.
I'm sure they will. I certainly hope so. And I like that you're given these tips, because we live in a very entrepreneurial continent.
Yes, we do.
So I'm sure that people will definitely find the right things to do for themselves.
And friends and family can also make recommendations. Now that some of their friends, they may be affected by their friends, and if there are jobs going in their organizations, if they hear of opportunities to kind of be sharing with their friend or family member who may be affected by this scenario.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, thank you for that, Anita. So now, how can HR add value in managing and reporting performance of employees?
Right, okay. Well, so we can see the value of recording performance, because in this scenario, it said that one of the criteria would be the performance of employees past and probably present. So HR can add a lot of value by how it analyzes the performance appraisal. Now, I explain what performance management system generally, basically, it means. But there is there's 5 elements, key essential elements to performance management. So there's the planning and expectation. That's where we set all the goals, the objectives, the targets. Then we have the monitoring, which I call the giving and receiving constructive feedback. That's between the manager.
Which is very, very important. Face-to-face
and I actually feel that should be regular.
Yes.
At minimum every quarter or bi-monthly. It depends on your organization.
At least every 3 months.
We don't have to wait till the end of the year to decide that Rita has not performed. What is that?
So let's
it's that when I could have determined it earlier on and helped you perform.
I definitely agree.
Exactly. And then from that monitoring and the feedback comes the development. So from that, maybe we identify, okay, Rita needs support in terms of training on the job, etc. So that's the whole idea of performance management, is to help me do better better. It's not supposed to be tripping me up or in the negative side that sometimes it's attached to. It's meant to be helping me to perform.
Exactly.
All right. And then after that comes the actual ratings, which is the annual appraisal. And we say ratings because a lot of the time people have a more subjective appraisal. So you sit with the manager, ask questions. It's not really structured. Exactly.
Yeah.
But we are saying strategically there needs to be a rating and a weight. A weight, it needs to be weighted. Objectives need to be weighted because, for example, if I'm in the sales and I have to bring in $500,000 at the end of the year, and then you're in finance and you have to reduce stationery cost by $10,000, the weight is not the same.
Exactly.
The objective of mine
It's
at half
two different
exactly more.
things,
So
yeah.
you need to have some kind of rating, weighting to make sure that we are rating people accurately. And then most importantly, Rita, that I have found with performance management is that HR needs to make sure that both managers and employees understand the instrument they're using, the appraisal process. And that doesn't mean just tell them on a PowerPoint presentation. This means let them go through the procedure of filling in the forms and whatnot.
They have to test it
Why
out.
am I saying this? In all the performance management work that I've done on the continent, the companies that initially there were problems were the ones where we found out that there had been no training on objectives or goal setting. So you realize that people were setting objectives, but there were more activities as to more linked to the business. And on these objectives are not just from in the air. They are coming from the board, the strategic objectives of the business. It comes from the board, it comes to the CEO, it comes to the HODs, then cascades down to the management and down to the employees. So they are connected to what the business is trying to achieve. It's not just random.
Okay.
So where people haven't had that, they're not able to set goals and objectives well. So that's very important. And then of course you have the ratings, and in as far as possible, if you're going to rate someone 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we need to have evidence.
Exactly.
So you have to
That
attach
it's the
evidence.
same
So
for
if Rita
everyone.
hates me and is just trying to say that I'm not performing, Rita needs to give me at least 3 or 4 evidence to show I've not performed, not just
Exactly.
tick
say it,
boxes.
yeah.
Exactly. And then lastly will be the reward and compensation. We know that ratings leads to how people's salaries are incremented, increased, sorry, and then I feel you should not just look at just the financial, but there should be some non-monetary aspects as well. People like praise and recognition.
Employee of the month.
Well, yeah, what's wrong with HR sending an email with the list of the employees who were
Exactly.
exceptional and outstanding, and
Exactly.
everyone acknowledging
Everyone
and
wants to
clapping,
stand out, yeah,
put them on
the
the
job.
notice board,
Yeah.
give them stars, because people, you'll be surprised. Yes, the money is a bonus. You get a bonus, you get whatnot, but the recognition and
Exactly.
praise,
It
people
means a
sometimes
lot.
take it far
It
more
means a
better
lot.
than even the money you should
I
give them.
definitely agree.
So that's the other element. So if HR can make sure is leading through facilitation,
Okay.
all right, the performance management system, and is making sure that the process is going well, and for that to happen, it means HR has to also evaluate the process every year. After appraisals and you've done all your analytics, you need to go back and give some kind of feedback, multiple questions.
Is it working?
How
Is it effective?
exactly?
You
Because
know?
it's a
It
continuous.
might not work for every
It's a continuous process,
year.
so it evolves. You may want to make changes each time. You shouldn't be afraid of that feedback, so that you can keep improving your system. And then the analytics is the key one. For HR to really add value, it needs to provide management, the leadership, with performance analytics that they can use to make decisions about the human capital. So, for example, we may want to know a percentage of employees who rated highest in the exceptional outstanding, and of that group, how many of them are in our talent group?
Okay.
Because if we have a talent pool and then we're having people in outstanding and exceptional, but they are not coming from our talent pool, then we need to be questioning our talent.
Something is definitely
exactly
wrong.
So that's just one example. You may want to find out what percentage of our employees have performed consistently in the last 3 or 5 years on a certain rating scale, which is very important. Again, you would see because in performance management, we're looking for people who are thinking and consistent performers.
Exactly.
We don't just want people performing without,
Exactly.
thinking, and we
You
want
have to
a
be able to
consistent.
identify those people in your
So
organization.
it's not this year you score 3, next year 2, then in the following year 5. We want consistency in what is being done. So that's why it's important to monitor what is happening on it. This is just some example. I mean, there's a lot of analytics you can do, but the analytics you also do must be in alignment with what the business needs, the strategy is, exactly, so that it's effective, meaning that they will then take value in what you're bringing them. But I think usually what happens, we finish appraisals and we kind of say, yes, it's done.
It's like, that's it. That's all we, I think, know how to do, most of us.
Yes, in about 60 to 70% of the analytics consulting we've done, when we looked at the strategic objectives against the appraisal results, companies were performing around 30–40% of their strategic objectives.
Really?
Yeah, because a lot of it was tick boxes action, and we were not, and HR wasn't really tracking the objectives from the top down. So really, what the overall company wants to know is, of all the objectives set from the main objectives, then it cascades. The objectives break down into smaller bits. How did we perform at as departmental, individual, teams, and organizational wide? So you need to break it down so they can see. And then overall, how did we perform against our strategic objectives? And what was the overall company rating? Okay. You see, these are the analytics.
It gives you, like, you can break it down into like the specifics that you yourself in the organization are looking for.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I guess that's the positive side to having.
Exactly. And then it means that next year we can say, right, we scored 3 as an organization. Next year we won 4. And we'll be able to look at the initiatives and actions we need to take to increase our rating from 3 to 4. From those who are not performing, we will go down to understand what has happened so we can bring their performance up. So even in bringing their performance up, plus our own effort to go up, is going to increase, it should increase their performance. So even KPIs that we send should be cause and effect. We should be trying to see how, in terms of cause and effects on what we are doing is also very important.
I think for anyone looking to run a long-term sustainable business, it will be smart for them to pay attention to
the people analytics.
Yes, the people analytics.
I cannot because emphasize it enough.
It's very, very crucial.
I want to make the point that you don't have to hold a PhD or you know, some masters to actually do HR. I mean, analytics. I mean, you can if you feel like I want to do this. But really, it's about really going on a very good program to understand the principles and that are required. And so far as you have the data, you can do it. It's just before you start, we always say you need to clean and standardize the data. Because the worst thing to do and to affect the HR credibility is to bring information that's inaccurate.
When things haven't even been assessed within the organization.
That will not be the best. So you need to make sure your data is fit for purpose before you do analytics as well.
Excellent. Well, we have come to the end. I know it's always, we always arrive at this point so fast. But thank you so much, Anita, for sharing this relevant information. I don't think a lot of businesses understand how important it is. Very important. Especially because things are moving so rapidly now that you have to track all of your data that's coming in. And you shouldn't have to wait for something to happen for you to even reference to your performance management systems. No. You should be looking through it, I think, consistently, right?
Absolutely.
Because if you're a business looking to grow, then you definitely want to keep track of the people within your organization, how they are progressing, who you can promote when there are promotions, who can get a raise when they deserve it. It also saves the organization, I'm sure, a lot of money.
It does. It does save you a lot of money.
Yeah.
When you know, we've just looked at performance and management in isolation, but it actually connects to a lot of key areas of HR, recruitment, engagement, and stuff. So a lot of the findings we will find when we do the analysis will impact those areas as well. So it's really and definitely it will save money, and definitely the aim is to enhance performance in terms of achieving the organizational goals. Yeah.
And all employers want to save money, right?
They want to save money and make money.
If I'm correct. So and make money. Important. That's true. Save money and make money. But
yeah, but I think it's something that's one of the areas that HR can add a real value, because that's the bottom line. The performance.
Thank you so much for coming on today's show.
I wanted to say, yes, I wanted to say that, you know, if let's say you are one of these employees that's been affected by this whole situation we talked about, you know, you can kind of maybe connect with us on our social networks and maybe ask questions and stuff, and we'll be quite happy to you know, to respond, you know,
Good.
give some direction.
Where can the
and
viewers
support.
find you?
Okay,
What's
well,
your-
so if you want to follow me, if you just Google Anita Wiafe-Asinor, I probably should come up with my Twitter, my LinkedIn. You see my social hooks, so you can
Yes.
follow me there. Or if you go on LinkedIn, you can also follow OML Africa. We're also on there as well. We're not difficult to find. If you want to find us, you will find us. Just Google OML Africa or Google my name and you'll find. So they can send us some questions, or you know, we'll be quite happy to help them answer. We are actually writing an article which is going to kind of look at it more from the human perspective and what's happening from a strategic perspective, like how we would, if let's say the banks were our clients, what would we advise them to do, and how would we handle the employees, to kind of give some of these employees and the people involved some insights.
I think that's really awesome
yeah.
that you're all doing that.
Well,
So-
yeah, you know, it's the human resource, isn't it? I mean, this has an impact on a lot of people.
Yeah.
You will be quite insensitive not to be moved, even though it's not directly affecting you. Well, it's not directly affecting you, that you're not the one affected with losing your job, but we know it's affecting us because we have to pay for the issue that have happened. And I think in this instance, you know, you can just try and be as help that you can be for people in this situation.
And we are done for today. See you next week, Wednesday, for episode 8.